Alrighty, GMGM everyone, and welcome to another Bondex Talks. Today we are joined by Anton. Anton is from Sleepagotchi. Anton, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Anton, we are really excited about this talk. From our side with Bondex, we're working to build a new LinkedIn, a LinkedIn disruptor. We're about helping talent get opportunities. We're about reshaping the way that people interact with the workplace. And when we came across Sleepagotchi, I think what really stood out was really this idea of disrupting a very common thing we all do, which is sleep. And how do we get the best sleep, and how do we gamify that? So I want to dive into that with you today. And I also want to, but before I do, sorry, I want to dive into a bit about yourself, a bit about your own journey, and maybe if we just start there, would love to know a bit of your story so far, and then let's dive into all things Sleepagotchi.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, really love what Bondex is doing. Met you first in the Solana Breakpoint conference, and yeah, I've been following ever since. As for myself, I've been in the Web3 space for a long time. I think got my first exposure back in 2012, then sort of played around, nibbled around, and then did Web3 management consulting. So I worked for big corporates, big regulatory firms to help think about virtual asset regulation. Then worked into product management in the tech. So first worked at Bismart on gamifying piano education. Then I worked at Duolingo, gamifying language education, and then I ended up working on Sleepagotchi, which is gamifying sleep. So far, I've really been focused on gamifying a lot of activities, sleep being the most universal. So that's how I ended up here.
It's great, Anton. I think what's really interesting for me as well is that I'm seeing gamification a lot in Web3. We're seeing this huge popularity rise in quests. The idea that brands are now recognizing that, okay, we can create very simple gamification structures, work with established platforms to engage with a Web3 audience and give them rewards. I'd love to know from your side is why does sleep need gamifying, and why Web3 as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that the thesis around Sleepagotchi was, can we bring gamification to a new activity? Duolingo was really good at gamifying. I think Strava and then Slack was good at gamifying walking and exercise. And we looked at other verticals, what other healthy habit can we gamify? Can it be dieting, exercise? But we wanted to drink actually thought about we wanted to develop a smart water before we settled on sleep because sleep is a universal area, and also because it's just very important to become realize how we sleep is. So why we sleep by much being very popular. You're seeing a lot of devices like or a Fitbit, Apple Watch, all track sleep. That's how we ended up in the sleep category. And then, but free, if you think about different levers to gamify, you can think about leaderboards, you can streaks, you can think about in-game items. You can also think about some sort of financial incentives that free allow. So into gamifying sleep, you want to combine not just Web free, but a lot of very popular, very famous gamification elements. Plus, Web free makes it stronger.
Awesome. It's really, really cool. I'm sorry, I just switched to my headphones because really getting a couple of issues here trying to hear you properly. So sorry if it's not coming through correctly. Um, what I'm really interested in as well is some of the ways that you've been thinking about gamifying sleep. Could you walk us through that experience? So what does the user get when they're using Sleepagotchi? How have you kind of tried to tackle this problem? What's the problem that you're trying to solve?
So the first thing, if you want to improve your sleep and your sleep discipline and your sleep life, is in general you need to go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time. So
Right.
it's important to track like REM sleep and light sleep, but it's a little bit on the higher end of what you need to do. Like the first thing is like you need to get your body into a consistent routine. You need to go to bed 11 p.m., 12 p.m. Doesn't matter, as long as you do it day in day out, it's going to be good for you. So we are gamifying sleep schedules effectively. And we want to make sure that if you follow your sleep schedules that you yourself have established, we give you different rewards. So for Sleepagotchi is actually not a night app, it's actually a morning app. So people wake up every morning, we check using a wearable device or just using the phone activity without a wearable device, when you went to bed, when you woke up, and then depending on your own goals and if you accomplish them, we give you different items and characters inside the game. Every morning starts similar. Every morning starts with the sleep box. So it's like a random present, a random gift that we give you that able to hit your sleep goals. So not only we improve sleep, we also notice that is a good way to start your day with a reward.
And what have you been looking at in terms of how you've approached that idea of a habit building app? So, and obviously Duolingo, they have mastered this idea of gamifying learning a language. I know that you work for them as well. I spent some time there. What other apps are doing this really well that you're seeing in this space? And I think for us as well, it's interesting with Bondex because we're trying to again solve this problem of how does talent show up, how does the professional workplace show up, and we've created a gamified app for that, for talent to kind of show up every day and reward people through that rewards engine. But we know we want to do a better job. We know we can do a better job. Who are you looking to who is like the leader in this space?
Yes, good question. I think Duolingo was definitely an inspiration for us in many ways. I think this is the primary example to how you do it correctly. The benefit for them is, of course, they've been live for 12 years. So they had a lot of iteration, a lot of testing they were able to do to arrive at a very sticky and very habit building product. For us, we are a little bit different from Duolingo, is because kind of the surface area which we can offer of utility is a little bit smaller. So, you can learn 100 language pairs, English, Spanish, French, Chinese, Japanese. So there's like infinite number of pairs, of language pairs, and there's no limit to when you stop learning a language. With Leap is a bit different. It's like, okay, well, you went to bed at the same time you woke up. Okay, what next? Uh, but we need to still engage you somehow. So that's why we made Sleepagotchi much more of a game than Duolingo is of a game. So if you
Mm.
think about a spectrum, this is an app and this is a game. If Duolingo is closer to an app, but still somewhere in the spectrum, we are much, much closer to a game. So when we look into gamification features, we actually look into some of the most famous gaming titles, be it Genshin Impact, Candy Crush, Royal Match, or Clash of Clans or other games.
Really good. It's funny when you say the app versus the game. I think like the utility, right? So Duolingo, really strong utility function there of helping you learn a language. And then there's the gamification side, which is almost like a cherry on the top. But what you're saying is that you probably swerve a bit more to the gamification side with a great utility, which is you can get some great sleep from this as well. But there's a lot of fun. So it's adding this fun element to it, which is missing in Web3. I feel like we need more fun in this space. A lot of serious DeFi heads, a lot of serious traders are out there. But I love seeing some of these projects that actually bring the fun into Web3. So kudos on that. And in terms of what does that look like from a community perspective for you guys at the moment? What does your community look like? How are they involved in kind of shaping the product?
Yes, so far we had two tests. We had a closed alpha test, we had an open beta test over the last 24 months, and we really used and built a community to really gather a lot of feedback to check if it's actually improving sleep, if people start to think more about sleep, if people are, for example, wearing more devices to track their sleep more accurately. Turns out they are. So we saw like a massive, like a 14% uplift of users who are
Mm,
using wearable device after using Sleepagotchi. We noticed that a lot of the user base is from Japan, and Japan has the shortest sleep on Earth. So we think that sleep is a very big is actually a little bit more important to people in Asia than it is in many ways to people kind of in US or in Europe. It still is important, but just Japan and Taiwan and South Korea is just different. So we really identify that, hey, this is the target market. So this is where there's like a lot of organic uptake, and we need to make sure that our product works well in the market. So Japan was our largest market, but I've never been to Japan before, and nobody from our team has been. And after
crazy.
that, we kind of had real life meetups. Twice we went to Japan to meet the users kind of in real life, and it's been really wonderful what you can build in Web3 is that the users are much more invested than they are in some more traditional Web2 projects, because suddenly everybody has skin in the game.
Exactly. And I think that's a really interesting part when building product. I know from my side, so I actually came from also a habit tracking app. So it was a meditation app very similar to Headspace and Calm. And scaled that from like 0 to 12 million users. And we've put a lot of thought into, okay, what are those habits that people are forming? What are the actions? What are the triggers? How do you reward those? We say a variable reward. These are kind of the frameworks from, I think it's Nir Eyal's book. Really, really cool. And I feel like with sleep, there's some really strong triggers in there, some really interesting behaviors that you can reward and emphasize. And it does tap into this part of the human brain, which is the monkey brain, which is we love rewards. And I love this idea of what Duolingo does and what Sleepagotchi are doing, which is it's rewarding you for positive behavior. But it feels like you're taking it that step further as well, to actually create the whole game. We had a question that just came through there on Twitter. I saw it pop up about how many days sleep. Do you have that number of like how many days sleep, how many sleeps have you tracked so far? Or how many, any of those kind of interesting numbers around the project to date?
Yeah, so let me just do a quick calculation myself here.
I love this live and on the fly calculations. Never been heard before.
I would say definitely like more than 10 million sleep hours we've tracked.
Wow.
And we've been live for 24 months, so almost like 2 years right now. And we have users from day one who have been with us in the closed alpha test and the beta test. Right now, we're not live, we're coming live soon. And we have a streak as well. So streak is kind of the premier gamification feature, the most powerful habit tracking feature of Duolingo, and you see it in every second habit forming app is a streak, which originally came from Snapchat. And we have users now with 800 plus day streaks, and
Wow.
that means the users have been using the product day in day out, and that is something that is really powerful for us as builders. Is that, hey, like we build something that people use day in day out for years.
Yeah. Amazing. You're right about the streak function. It's one of we just brought that in ourselves with Bondex, and we've been rewarding our users who show up every day with streaks, unlock rewards. They get a reward at 3 days, 5 days, 7 days, and then there's badges. Those badges will go to the next season of airdrop, which details will be announced about that soon. And we know that it's having a big impact. We've just seen 40,000 users have just hit a 20-day streak. Oh no, sorry, 20,000 users have just hit a 40-day streak, which is super cool and really cool to see like what happens when you start rewarding these behaviors. And yeah, I love that. I wonder whether you maybe just you are deep in this world of sleep, of helping people achieve better sleep. And often a side of that you'll see is like better performance for people the next day, more awake, more attuned. Sleep is just the foundation for everything. For me, it's super important as well. I'd love to know from your side, like where you see this project going. Like where is this going? You're helping people with sleep right now. Where does this world go to? What's the next steps for kind of Sleepagotchi?
Yeah, right now we are really focused on making sure we gamify sleep as much as we can for Duolingo. I think 80% of the revenue and the users come from the main language learning app, but now they're doing piano education, they're doing maths education, they're kind of looking into grammar. So
Interesting.
it's similar for us, we could potentially expand into other healthy activities. But we believe that we can build a generational company just by focusing on sleep itself. And I believe there is also big value in being focused on one product at a time. So for the next foreseeable future, we're going to be focused on sleep. Going further, we either expand into more verticals or explore some other areas of the sleep stack. We can go into pillows or hardware devices. So it's going to depend, I think, on many ways. And right now, the sky is limit.
And talk me through how you're thinking about Web3. So I know you mentioned obviously there's the game. I know you mentioned about the NFTs as well, but talk me through that side because again, like from Bondex's point of view, we're really trying to bring like a Web 2.5 approach to solving problems. So UX that is familiar. It's not like it's a UX that my grandma could use. And we want to give people a great, fun experience of trying to find a job, of trying to get connected with others in the marketplace, and ultimately, like we do, that's where we're going to become is a LinkedIn disruptor, where it's very familiar. It's great seeing that you've done the same, but Web3 is often really challenging technically to implement. Walk me through some of the decisions you've been making, especially between that tension between user experience and the that Web 2.5 approach.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is very smart in making sure that you're building like in Web 2.5 is you have a very large audience for a LinkedIn competitor. So just by targeting existing Web users, you won't be able to scale it to something that would make sense, I think, from a
Yeah,
platform wise, right? So you need to go outside of this Web3. Similar to us, I think that there may be like 1 million like super powerful Web3 users. How many of them are going to care about sleep, like to a large extent?
yeah.
So we really focus also on the Web2 side. We could talk about UX decisions. We want to make everything seamless in other stuff. I think one thing I want to mention though is that adding Web3 to your product is a one-way door. It's not a two-way door. It's if you put something on chain, people can trade it. It has some value. Suddenly, it's harder to iterate on that element of design because a change will lead to potentially some changes in the and changes like in the value of things, right? It's not as a Web2 item. We can tweak some Web2 currency, we can tweak some balance of Web2 items, but if you do it on Web3, it's very different. Similar to NFTs or to tokenomics. So one thing that we really care about is that are we sure that what are you going to put on chain, what are you going to come into Web3 is something that we are confident that is going to work, is going to be able to survive like stress tests going
Mm.
forward. So that's why we actually built a fully fledged like NFT/token marketplace inside our test app and allowed people to trade items. And we'll check, okay, what's happening with the burn of NFTs, so happening with the burn of tokens, what's happening with the prices. So we didn't simulate the actual market, we actually built it all inside the app and saw what's happening out inside. Then in the next iteration, we played around with monetization. We really tested a lot of the stuff and tested a lot of internal assumptions in there. So then finally, once we go live on chain, we know, hey, Web3, this is the part where we are, a little bit more confident than we were before. So that's why I think it's a super priority to get projects right.
Interesting, because I've never heard Web3 described as a one-way door. I think there's projects like was it Starbucks who released their loyalty program and then they just closed it down, right? But that's hyper established. But I agree with you that when you bring something in, especially the token, especially launch, we got a lot of people in Bondex asking, when TGE for us, we're close, guys, we're ready, is what I'd say. We're just waiting for our exchanges. We know that it's a one-way door, that once it's out there in the public, that is it. There is no turning back, and there's a real pressure. But it's I've never heard it framed as a one-way door. So really, really cool to hear that. I think the other kind of decisions you'd have had to make along the way as well is where do you choose to build? So for us, even as Bondex, we are looking, right? So for that home protocol and that home layer, and we know that we've got some fantastic potential partners to work with, and one of those you've chosen is Solana. So why have you gone with Solana, and what was your decision making around that as well?
Yeah, I think Solana. I think Solana is a good choice, and there are there are objectively like 3 or 4 chains that are good for a project to build right now today. For us, it was primarily we wanted. I think Web3 is about own assets. It's about transactions. It's about liquidity. So the most economic activity right now happens on Solana. A lot of activity happens on Ethereum like layer 2s, but it's a little bit more fragmented, right? And this compared to Solana, which is layer 1. So we really wanted to to build on a layer one where we are able to integrate with other tools, because we don't want to build all the Web3 stuff. We are a Web 2.5 company, kind of the really hardcore Web3 stuff. We want other people to build it. And then we noticed just kind of the most activity was in Solana, the quality of the builders, the quality of the products, and the number of liquidity. Like I think today, Solana again like flipped Ethereum in terms of like 24-hour revenues and economic activity. Its largest ever was today or yesterday. So I think it's you can't go wrong if you're building where the liquidity is in the Web3 space.
Really interesting. And I also think there's a good fit there with Solana and the meme coins. It's a very fun project as well that you guys are building. And it's something that even from a brand perspective that works. Who else were you looking at when you kind of came to this decision? What other kind of chains were you looking at?
Yeah, we were looking at a few. We were looking at layer 2. We were looking at Base, given the Coinbase distribution. We were looking at Ronin as well, given their big gaming focus, speaking to Immutable as well. So in many ways, the usual suspects for us. We ultimately, a big reason for us, we did a survey inside the community. We listed all the chains I told you. Hey, which chain do you use the most?
Yeah, yeah.
80% said they're using Solana the most. So this is actually coming back to your previous question. How does the community influence us? Well, the community voted Solana is the most used chain. We want to build where the community already is. So it was a big factor in us deciding where to build as well.
Amazing. Really, really cool. So we've got a lot of users who'll be watching this who are big fans of playing these kind of games, like tap to earn games, you know, the ones like Bunny Blitz from Bondex or Hamster Combat, those types of games. And this idea of being able to earn through their sleep as well is super appealing. What would you say to that type of user? What kind of rewards would they be able to expect through Sleepagotchi?
Yeah, it's interesting waters if you want to like promise exact returns to users or exact rewards. I think one way you think about it is that look at the references, right? What exists in the market. So the closest product to us right now is Pokemon Sleep. So
Mm.
Pokemon last year in July, they released a game where you go to bed, wake up in the morning, and you collect Pokemon. So the better you slept, the more Pokemon you collect, and the faster they grow. So it's like Pokemon Go, but for sleep. And 1 year after they launched, they're still at 1 million users per day, million DUs, and they're generated 100 million revenue in the first year
Wow.
alone. So there was so
Wow.
much economic activity created in that game. So all this revenue went to the Pokemon company. It went to Nintendo, Game Freak, the other company that owns the Pokemon franchise. And you think about it, well, if so much value was created, 100 million inside the game, and everything went just to the developer, if you design the economy in such a way that maybe some of the value stays inside the community, kind of it flows around, it creates new abilities to trade between users rather than kind of just one-way trading between you and Nintendo. You're just the Pokemon company, you trade with other users. So you can imagine that a pile of this $100 million, that a pile of that can actually be retained inside the community, the people who are actually building the game. So that's how we think about the possible economic value that you can achieve. So it's sort of taking a pie out of a single way transaction with a user and allowing more user-based transactions inside the game.
Really interesting. And obviously with Pokemon, you've got that huge IP there, you know, with the Pokemon characters. I can spot one of your characters behind you. Is this the official Sleepagotchi mascot?
Yeah, that's the official Sleepagotchi mascot over there. We
Awesome.
call him Dino, but we're gonna be naming him very soon. It's inspired by Godzilla. It's a kawaii Godzilla. So again, a reference to the Japan culture in many ways, and maybe a reference to Duolingo because Duolingo owl was green. So so
So true.
it is us.
It's
Yeah.
funny because I feel like that's a whole new play. Like we're seeing these brands pop up. I actually was on a Spaces a couple of weeks ago, and somebody was talking about the new trend in Web3 is more based around mascots. With Bondex, we've got our bunny. We haven't given him a name yet, but I like the idea of giving him a name. I love the idea of turning into an actual teddy bear like you've got there. I think that's super fun. And the future, though, we've seen this trend with the mascots, but also this leading what's the word, awareness piece of like what IP can do. So we see it with Pudgy Penguins specifically is a great example I think of their IP really creating new opportunities for them as well. Is that something you guys think about with this mascot, dreaming in the future here for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you're right that Pokemon Sleep has the Pokemon IP, and Pokemon IP is the most powerful IP in the world. I think it's more popular than Bible, if you
Wow.
take the absolute numbers. But we have Web3. They have the Pokemon IP, we have the Web3, and we can actually build the IP ourselves. We can get the community involved in building it. We can take a little bit more risks than the Pokemon company can. And with mascots, it's pretty simple. It's people trust you know a life. I would say they trust people, they trust mascots, they trust animals a little bit more than just logos or corporate names. For us, we also have a game which is an adventure game, and you help this little guy to go on adventures, and the better you sleep, the better he does, and he interacts with you. If you
It's
didn't
awesome.
get good sleep, he'll be like, "Hey, could have slept better. I wanted to make a little bit more progress inside my adventures." And we try to kind of use the characters also, not only for like IP building, but also to incentivize a person to sleep better, right? If you have accountability partner in the form of a life like being, then it just works better.
Yeah. Really, really cool. I love it. Anton, I want to wrap up after this, but I would love to ask you, what are you seeing in the market right now that is really capturing your attention? Something that you're getting curious about, something that a project that is interesting you, or a new technology that's coming through that you think is worth paying attention to?
Yeah, definitely. I think in general, like we seeing a lot of trends inside consumer in Web3. I think now we are exiting the stage of let's build infrastructure. Let's make sure the builders come. Well, now we have to build actual apps because infrastructure was built over the last 5 years. So now you're seeing a lot of interesting applications. One is being, of course, the whole meme coin trend with, Palm.fund democratizing access and making sure that you can launch a meme coin in 2 minutes. But there's also, you know, other projects like prediction markets that
Mm,
allow you to bet on elections. And I think the most recent trend from like a few weeks ago is the AI/crypto meme narrative with the terminal of truth, where an AI has created a new coin. And I
so
think
this.
it's very, very, I think in general, like anytime you have two massive technologies that intersect in their prime time, like AI and crypto in many ways, you get some very cool surprises that spread virally and super fast.
Yeah, that AI one, is this the one where we reckon this could be the first ever AI millionaire? Was it this one? The
That's the one. Yes, that's the terminal truth, and the ticker is GOAT. Disclaimer: I don't own any, so.
crazy stories, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, I was telling my fiance about this one of like how these agents have kind of recognized what it takes to kind of create a successful meme coin, and yeah, fascinating that we've now got officially our first millionaire AI agent, and somebody must have the wallet keys to that. Somebody's surely. So I'm sure someone's doing very well with that AI. Anton, it's been really interesting for me learning about building better habits, learning about how you guys are thinking about solving this problem for sleep. I wish you guys all the best. I think there's a lot of parallels with what we're building with Bondex. I'd actually love, actually, just a few more minutes, I'd actually love to know about, last question, what you're thinking about when it comes to building team, how you hire, and the challenges that you see in building in this space, and the challenges of finding talent as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's an excellent question. I think, um, building a team almost works like a snowball. So it's a little bit harder to hire people in the beginning, similar to how it's hard to acquire users in the very beginning, hard to raise money in the beginning. But once you have a few good people join, more people are coming in. But in general, sourcing of talent is always troublesome. I'll give you an example. Like we usually just have referrals, or we try to DM people directly whom we like. We When we posted a vacancy on LinkedIn, it was actually 2 days ago, we got 100 applications within the first 24 hours. Then LinkedIn stopped the job application because it said you reached kind of enough applications, and then 90% of the applications were botted or fake. So I think there's definitely a need for reinvention of LinkedIn, reinvention of the sourcing of talent, and yeah, really looking forward to adoption of Bondex at a larger scale.
Come on. Well, just to do a humble shill on this one here, Anton, is that we have got some really cool features about to come out, a bit of alpha for anyone watching live. And one of those is specifically around what you're talking about, which is what happens when you get thousands of job applications. So Bondex is now serving up hundreds of jobs every single day. And for those that are exclusive on Bondex, we are now offering CV filtering for employers, so that employers will have an AI that will scan every single CV that will come through, and it'll, one, say whether it's real or fake, because like you say, there's a lot of bots, and there's a lot on any platform. And then the second one, it will actually rate and rank the criteria to the of the job to the profile that's coming through, which is really cool. And then we're also going to be offering the inverse of that, which is for people who are looking for jobs. So there are thousands and thousands of jobs that are out there and available right now. And in Web3, it can be quite daunting finding one that will fit. And so from a user perspective, we're about to give users the ability to actually upload their own CV and then actually filter through thousands of jobs and then return the top jobs that match their profile, which is, again, saving a lot of hours for users. And I think the pain point there is to really hopefully reduce that time for users to find jobs and for people to find jobs, and then for companies to find the best talent. But ultimately, where my head goes, and especially with Bondex, is that there is a whole new way of recruitment that needs to emerge, and it's where talent can be easily discovered, and where more and more stuff is on chain, that you can find developers through proof of work, you can find people who are highly reputable, and that shows up in new ways. And it's a problem that we're trying to solve humbly over here with Bondex. So yeah, thanks for that, Anton. You allowed me to shill nicely there at the end, which is great. And yeah, I'd love to know just where can people find you? How can people connect with Sleepagotchi? What's available right now?
So three call to actions. One is follow us on Twitter or X on Sleepagotchi. Join our Discord. Also discord.gg/Sleepagotchi. And last one, in around 4 weeks from now, we'll be launching a Telegram game where we'll use to distribute as distribution as marketing platform towards the main release of the Sleepagotchi mobile game on Android and iOS that is coming very soon. But in the meantime, stay tuned, follow us on Twitter and Discord, and look up for the Telegram game that's coming very soon.
Awesome. Well, congrats on all the success so far, Anton, and really looking forward to seeing this Telegram game come out and the future development of Sleepagotchi. You've done a fantastic job, and yeah, looking forward to seeing what's coming up next. And for everyone else, thanks for joining us. It's been a really fun Bondex Talks, and we'll have another one of these next week. And enjoy the rest of your week, guys.
Thanks a
Bye for
lot,
now.
Paul.